Interviews with business owners and veteran executives who share their wisdom and expertise to help you de-stress, free up time, and make more money. Profits of IT. Welcome back to the Profits of IT. I am Jim Punzenberger, your host and the creator of the Managed Prospecting System. If you're looking to generate leads and appointments without cold calling, ad spend, or spamming, check out managedprospectingsystem.com. Excited to have Maddie here with me today. Maddie, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us more about a quick bit about the company that you work for.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Jim. So I'm Maddie Martin. I'm the VP of Marketing at Smith.ai, and we are a 24/7 virtual receptionist service. And we answer and actually make outbound calls. We handle website chats. We handle text messages and Facebook messages. And we are really much more than an answering service, as you might traditionally think of just simply taking a message or transferring calls. We schedule appointments, we complete intake forms, we accept payments, and then we follow up and nurture new leads and maybe even existing clients who need to hear from you with outbound calls and campaigns. So we're quite capable to be your frontline, and we integrate with your software so we can be basically keeping you and your team in the loop without having to be directly involved with all of those conversations.
Cool. So Maddie, what's something interesting about yourself outside of work?
I have a strong passion for international travel, and I have been to the base camp of Mount Everest and Vietnam and Thailand, all over China, actually, and I love exploring. So that comes into my work life with a lot of new creative ideas and projects, but it also creeps into my personal life, just exploring the world and getting to meet people. And I think as a marketer, it really, opens up your worldview, and it generates creative ideas. So yeah, that's a passion.
I love travel myself. I haven't been to China yet. I don't think I have any plans of visiting the base camp of Mount Everest, to be honest with you, but it sounds like that'd be a really cool experience.
It was a trek. It's like 16 hours from Lhasa to drive out to Everest base camp area. So yes.
Yeah, and then do you have to hike too?
You have to hike to the little post that says, I think it's called Mount Chamalongma. Sorry if I butchered that to anyone who knows. But you hike maybe 3 kilometers or something out from the tent area to the post that actually has the name of the mountain on it. And I have to tell you, even though it's pretty flat ground at that elevation of base camp, it is a hard feat to just walk 3 kilometers. I mean, you're out of breath, and we had been acclimated at that point for days, and you're still finding it a challenge to just exist, let alone go on a little bit of a rocky hike.
Got it. It sounds like a very intense experience.
Yeah. I think base camp's at like 17,000 feet, and the mountain is 29,000 something. So.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. So Maddie, what would you say is your superpower when it comes to business, or what you contribute your success to in business, and how can others learn from that and apply that in their lives, their businesses, etc.?
So if I have a superpower, it's probably just being nimble and quick to adapt. I think that, in this day and age, there are a lot of, people who want to accelerate their careers. There are a lot of people who want to switch careers, which, has always been the case to some extent. But being in the moment in a company and having a lot of shifts and changes, as I've experienced working now for 3 startups. This is my 3rd one where I've stood up marketing departments there. really like being able to pivot and to have a flexible mind and to allow for maximum collaboration as deadlines allow, but not to be too stuck on, your idea, or, whose idea is it, or the sense of ownership that we have over creative pursuits and projects that we're working on. I think that one thing I do well is I'm both a leader and I'm also very receptive to input and to change. And I can pivot, on that dime and say, if that's the case, if this is the new reality, then we need to do these things, and I can outline them and we can execute on them. So I execute very effectively, but I also, know when it's time to basically just follow orders. And, I think there's a misconception that, when you reach a certain stage of leadership in a company, now I'm, a VP, I'm in my mid 30s, I have a pretty good career behind me and still ahead of me. It's important that we remain humble and flexible in our minds and don't get too rigid in the place that we hold or the role that we play in the company.
Do you have any tips on improving on being more flexible?
Well, I mean, I think, I'm not perfect here, and I will give tips that myself I should take. But I would say count to 3, count to 5 if you're in a meeting and you're finding out about something for the very first time, that there is a change, that, the way that you thought a project was going to go is not going to go that way. There's a, truncated timeline, there's an extended timeline, deadlines or resources have shifted. You have to do the same thing in half your budget. What are you going to cut? There's different dependencies that change. I would say just take a beat and don't say anything. The most important thing is to not say something that you can't take back, not do something that will erode your stature in the company. People are not in offices together as much as we once were. So we have video conversations, we have Slack conversations, and it's really important that we are mindful of sort of the concentrated nature of those conversations. It's really fewer data points coming together to form your experience and opinions about people that you work with, who you work with. And I would just say pause. The most important thing is to pause. You don't have to give answers right away, typically, even though you might feel pressure to, and that's something that I'm still learning how to do better. And to write things down, to, maybe even ask a colleague, if they make sense, and then come back and say, here's the game plan. Typically, you have a little bit more breathing room than you might think you do when those changes occur. And it is to your benefit to appear as a mature, informed, thoughtful team member, to not immediately start, spouting out ideas, but to just take a moment and think about them. And that goes a long way.
Got it. So any other tips that you'd have for people that are looking to improve in this area?
In having a flexible mind, I think it's important that you get enough sleep and that you keep your stress levels relatively low as you can. I've got a 1-year-old puppy, so he helps relieve my stress levels and, introduce play into your life, and also introduce ways to let off steam. If you have a lot of pressure and then there are changes, it's easy to react rather than to just, retract, pull yourself back and take a moment. That pause is harder to achieve if you're already sort of feeling like a powder keg. So things that make you not feel like a powder keg are better sleep, eating properly, exercising, maybe it's playing with your dog. Maybe it's doing something that you enjoy, gaming, whatever, sewing, it could be anything, but you do need to have that balance of things that you enjoy in life. I cook dinner every night, and that means I'm not checking emails then. And you don't necessarily work 9 to 5, but there's a sanctuary sort of in my home at certain times, especially because I work from home, where I need to set those boundaries. So in order to, be mindful, I think you really have to protect the state of your mind. right? You can't expect to be mindful on 3 hours of sleep. And you can't expect to be mindful when you've been sitting staring at your computer screen for 14 hours straight and you ate a power bar for lunch. I don't think that that's reasonable, no matter how much we sort of biohack ourselves. I don't think that that's reasonable. Our brains don't work that way. So strike balance, and it will be easier to have control over yourself at work.
Great. Those are some great tips for flexibility. Do you have any other things that you contribute your success to?
Well, I would say flexibility is something I've had to learn the hard way over time. I don't know if that's led to my success necessarily. I have a lot of grit, and I do, have the ability to pivot. But early in my career, I'd say I sort of would grit my teeth, and now I don't grit my teeth. I actually feel like I can pivot peacefully. But early on, I think the grit went a long way. It also helped me to be opinionated and to be well read, and to know that my opinion is informed. It's not just my own experience or view of the world. The more that you read, the more you can back yourself up and have evidence and proof that you are helping to steer your company in the right direction. Those data points are essential, the same way that you'd make data points from, revenue data or conversion rates or something. And in marketing, like, you still need to do that when it's new concepts, new projects. Are you approaching things with data-backed proof, and not just, your own hunch or your own, view into things based on your Facebook feed or LinkedIn feed or whatever, based on your network. So you really need to expand and read. And the more that you read, and the more diversely you read about principles that don't just have to do with your own industry, but also the adjacent sort of departments. If I just read about marketing, then I wouldn't know and understand how product teams work. I wouldn't know and understand how sales teams work, what operationally happens after those new clients come in. Because marketing, being the face of the company in many ways, you have to understand the way that things are going to work for those new clients and customers you attract. And it also is important that you understand those inner workings, because you'll get really familiar with the technical terms and the processes that need to be simplified and communicated outward to even bring those clients in. So what I mean by that is, if I didn't understand what an API is and does, and what that facilitates for our clients to get more out of Smith.ai, I would not be able to communicate the value of Smith.ai as effectively. I wouldn't be able to attract clients uniquely to Smith.ai versus other potential answering services or outbound sales campaign services that might exist, and really position us properly in the market. So I think there is a lot to say around reading and adjacent to your role. How can you best understand your entire company and better relate to your coworkers and the work that you may put on their plate, the work that they may put on your plate. It gives you, I think, again, back to that travel example, better ability to relate to others, and then probably better ability to see things from your customers or clients' point of view. If you're the kind of person who's seeking that out, it becomes a habit. And you'd probably seek out, what are people looking for? What do people want these days? What are the social dynamics? Why are we seeing social media playing such a big role in our lives? Then you really start to learn and understand your environment, and that makes for the best possible marketer.
Got it. Well, that's been some really good insight. So tell me, who should be doing business with Smith, and why should they be doing business with Smith?
Well, there's a wide range of use cases that we solve and problems that we address. The two primary reasons that people work with Smith.ai is to help them reduce unnecessary noise and interruption so that they can stay focused, and two, to help them capture the available demand that's coming their way that they can't possibly get to in time. And what I mean is, you have a ticking clock. As soon as someone expresses interest in your business or visits your website or your Facebook page or sends you a message or text, makes a phone call, if they leave a message, you're basically already too late. The callback acceptance rate is like 47%. So if I make a call to you, Jim, and I say, thanks so much for trying to reach me, I'm calling you back, I'm more likely to leave a message than to actually get you, even if I'm quite fast. So there is a lot of importance in not losing those leads you've already paid for, but then also protecting your time. Because if you say, Maddie, if responsiveness is the name of the game, then I'm just going to sit by the phone and wait and pick up every call. You get nothing done during that day. So it needs to be a balance where you are responsive, but you personally don't have to be the responsive one. There are representatives who can work on behalf of your business. And then you can get work done, only interrupted if there is something that is important enough to warrant that. And your team is affected by this as well. There are a lot of people who are working in companies where they are answering calls and emails all day long. They're responsible for answering website chats. They're responsible for following up with huge, long lists of leads from events, from various channels, from website forums, and they don't get to work on their projects either. So it's not just a business owner issue; it's a staff-wide issue. And as a result of working with Smith.ai, you don't just defer the task for when you get around to it. Like if I were to just answer your calls and take a message, you would see that message when you get around to it and then take action. If you have a meeting on your calendar instead, and you have the notes to help you conduct that meeting successfully, this is a potential client who wants to use your software. They, have this need and use case. Great, I'm going to have a very productive conversation. I'm going to show up to that call. I'm going to win that client, and I'm going to move on to the next thing that I have to do. That's extremely efficient. And I think it gives the small business owner, the medium-sized business owner, a huge advantage that the large enterprises currently are taking advantage of at scale. And it really is the single last thing that a large company would be able to do, especially in services or software, that a small business owner can't, because I believe most consumers prefer small to mid-sized businesses. The personal touch, the level of customer service, feeling important to a business is very important to that consumer. They would rather work with a small to mid-sized business, but they don't because they're unreliable. They don't because they don't know if they're going to get the level of service that a large corporate infrastructure constantly delivers to them. We're in the Amazon world where if Amazon says your package is coming tomorrow, it's coming tomorrow with very few exceptions, right? I mean, look at the scale of that business. Small businesses, how can they compete with that, right? They can compete when they add on small, affordable services and solutions that help them give that business presence, give that customer service, follow up appropriately in a timely manner without drawing down on that time of the person who is actually doing the work and running the business. That's a huge advantage that then turns the tables on the large enterprises, and people start hiring small more because the drawbacks go away.
Got it. And if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what would be the best way of doing so?
So you can visit us online at Smith.ai. You can also call us at 650-727-6484. You can hear us live. And if you'd like, you can also email us at hello@smith.ai. That's smith.ai. And we would be happy to chat with you about how we can help your business for both inbound and outbound calls, chats, texts, and Facebook messages too, of course, and all the other services I mentioned. And as a special gift for your listeners, Jim, we will give $100 off the first month for anyone who newly signs up for a plan. using the code profits of IT. So that's profits of IT. And that will be all one word, basically, is the promo code.
Great. That's a very generous offer. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Plans are super affordable. So that should make a big dent.
yeah. So the affordable. So what does a typical plan start at for a small business? What's the
It's probably going to run you, a few $100s a month, but far less than the cost of a staff member part-time. And these are hundreds of staff that we have. So nobody calls out sick. Nobody, is taking leave and leaving you in the lurch. It's much more reliable in addition to being more affordable. And we have managers who manage them for you, because we all know that it's not just having someone on your team doing work. It's also work to make sure that they are doing the right thing and that, you're in charge of their day. So it's not just having that answering and, outbound calling and chat and everything, but it's also the tech integrations, which most of us don't have IT people on staff in these small businesses anymore. And it is the availability of basically unlimited workforce.
cool? So thank you for that. And any last thoughts before we wrap up here?
No, I appreciate you having me, Jim. This was a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again soon.
Great. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing. And thank you. Until the next time on the Profits of IT, I am Jim Punzenberger, your host and the creator of the Managed Prospecting System. If you're looking to generate leads and appointments through hyper-personalized outreach, check out managedprospectingsystem.com.
Thank you for tuning in to the Profits of IT. Please smash that like button, subscribe, and share.